Good afternoon, Evil, and I will tell you one story of a good viewing. I never took selfies. Always thought they were shallow distractions. Empty snapshots of a life I barely remembered living. But that evening, as rain slicked the windshield of my old Honda and thunder grumbled overhead, I felt restless. I'd been driving purposefully nowhere, seeking escape from the headaches, the arguments, the streetlights beating like war drums through my skull. Finally, I stopped at a deserted overlook outside town. The clouds opened, and lightning illuminated the gorge below. In a sudden whim, I held up my phone, aimed at my face, and tapped the screen. The flash startled me. Blinded for a heartbeat, I blinked twice. On the screen, I saw my own startled expression. Dark circles under my eyes, mouth half open in surprise. Then I noticed something at my shoulder. A pale, blurred smear, like smoke or spilled milk. I tapped to zoom in. The smear sharpened into a gaunt face, lips peeled back, eyes hollow and soulless. I yelped and staggered away, the phone clattering onto the hood. I snatched it up, but when the screen lit again, the ghostly figure had vanished. Laughter, high-pitched, mirthless, echoed in my mind. I slammed the phone shut and tore away from the overlook, heart pounding in my throat. Back home, I locked the door and paced, trying to rationalize what I'd seen. A trick of light, a double image, nothing more. But when I reviewed the photo later, the figure returned. Paler than paper, its head unnatural, elongated like a spooked deer. No eyes, just deep black pits, as though someone had scooped them out. My skin crawled beneath my shirt. I deleted the picture, convinced that would be the end of it. A terrible joke once told. Forgotten. I was wrong. The next morning I felt watched. In the kitchen, coffee cup trembling in hand, I realized the front door was ajar, though I was certain I'd locked it. The air smelled damp and rotted, like mushrooms dying under an orange street lamp. I locked the door again, double-checked every bolt, but the breeze persisted, bringing with it the faintest whisper, "Smile," as though hissed directly into my ear. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I see you." I stared, the message blinking on the screen. No reply. Then a second, soon. My stomach lurched. I held the phone at arm's length, as though repulsed. That afternoon, at work, I tried to distract myself. The office was empty, weekend staff already gone. But I'd volunteered for overtime, needing the cash. At my desk, I took out my phone to check messages. As I swiped, the line between background and foreground seemed to twist. For a moment, I saw the pale figure behind my computer monitor. I gasped and spun around, but there was nothing. The dim cubicle, the humming air conditioner, a single plastic plant drooping by the window. But on my desk, under the fluorescent light, lay a Polaroid I had never seen before. Its edges were yellowed, curled. I picked it up with shaking fingers. In the image, I stood at that overlook, head turned to the camera, and right behind me the ghost. Closer now. Its face twisted into a scream, eyes ragged holes. My heart hammered. I dropped the photo and it fell face up on the desk, ghost's face magnified. Closer. I stared. It stared back. The fluorescent light flickered. I heard the whisper again. Closer this time. Turn around. I lunged to my feet. My chair toppled behind me. The door at the end of the hallway, normally locked on weekends, swung open with a gust of cold. A dark shape slithered through the threshold. I slammed my palm against the light switch. Darkness. My phone's torch flicked on, casting a narrow beam across the hallway. The figure emerged. Tall, impossibly thin, limbs too long at the joints as though snapped apart then hastily reattached. Tilted its head, watching. My legs refused to move. Its mouth cracked open in a silent scream. I dropped to my knees and scrambled backward until the wall cut me off. The phone buzzed again. Text. Next picture. Then my ringer went off. My own number. I stared at the display. Answering seemed foolish, but I did. No, no. My voice quivered. Please help me. Then the line went dead. My blood froze. The phone slipped from my hand. My breathing raspy. I pushed myself up and sprinted down the hallway. Kicking doors closed behind me. I burst into the stairwell and bolted down 3 flights. 2. My legs threatening to buckle beneath me. At the ground floor lobby, I flung open the glass doors and stumbled onto the sidewalk. The night air crashed against me, sharp and alive, but the office building windows glowed behind me, light leaking onto the wet pavement, mannequins of darkness dancing inside. I didn't stop until I reached my car. Hands shaking, I fumbled for my keys. When I finally got inside, I locked the doors and sat behind the wheel, chest heaving. I turned the phone on. 10 new messages. Hundreds of photos. All Polaroid. Everyone showed me different angles and expressions, and this thing lurking closer, sometimes at my side, sometimes inches from my face, sometimes hovering just beyond the frame as if reaching in. I threw the phone into the back seat. My pulse thundered in my ears. I sat a long moment, willing myself to breathe, to think. Then I glanced at the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw her, long white dress, hair torn and wet, face blurred by tears. Pale skin stretched taut over cheekbones sharp as blades. She lifted a hand, beckoning me with crooked fingers. My reflection in the mirror screamed, and hers moved too, separate from mine, eyes leaking darkness. I grabbed the wheel and sped off. The world blurred, streetlights, storefronts flashing past, neon signs strobing my tunnel vision. I shook my head, tried to clear it. She wouldn't be in the car, couldn't be. But when I checked the rearview mirror again, I saw her standing in the back seat, her knees impossibly high under the roof. She tilted her head, and I felt the car slow to a crawl, though my foot was flat on the gas. The wipers slapped across the windshield, and in the fractured rhythm of rain and glass, I saw the photo on the passenger seat. Confused, I glanced over. There it lay, another Polaroid, fresh, glossy. I snatched it up and froze. It showed me in the driver's seat, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, panic etched on my face. And right behind me, pressed against the window, was her face, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes burning. The brakes screeched as I stomped on them. The car skidded to a halt in the middle of the deserted road. I yanked the door open and fled into the night, leaving the engine running, headlights illuminating the wet tar and the empty, yawning darkness beyond. I didn't care where I ran. Just away. Every crunch of gravel under my feet, every breath of wind felt like her voice whispering, closer each time, next picture. I don't remember how long I ran, minutes blurred into miles, streets into fields. At some point the rows of street lamps ended and the land dipped into countryside. Only when my lungs were fire and my legs jelly did I collapse beside a derelict bus stop at the edge of an abandoned service road. The shelter's plexiglass panes were cracked like spiderwebs, the schedule board bleached unreadable years ago. Overhead, the moon slid in and out of bruised clouds, each appearance bleaching the world bone white. I huddled on the bench and finally looked at my phone again. The battery gauge was a sliver, but the screen glowed with a fresh notification, one new photo. The thumbnail alone shriveled my stomach, my silhouette here, on this very bench, head bowed, and behind the plexiglass stood the figure, forehead against the pane, lips grazing the crack. It had already found me. I thumbed the trash icon, delete, but the image duplicated instead, multiplying across the gallery like spores. Each copy gained resolution, sharpening veins under translucent skin, revealing maggots swimming lazily in the hollows of its eyes. With a choked curse, I hurled the phone into the weeds. A soft click answered, like a shutter. The shelter's fluorescent tube, long dead, flickered to life above me. Light hummed, casting hard shadows that lunged and recoiled with every pulse. On the timetable glass, moisture condensed to spell a word in shaky beads. Smile. I bolted. The service road curved toward an old railway bridge, its iron ribs sagging over a black creek. Beyond the bridge rose the skeletal remains of a textile mill, brick-eaten by ivy, windows punched out like missing teeth. Instinct screamed to stay in the open, but another part of me, wired by terror, demanded walls, any walls, between the ghost and me. I sprinted for the mill. Inside, the stench of mildew and rust lay thick as fog. Moonlight filtered through broken panes, painting bars of silver across sagging looms and dust-caked conveyor belts. Rat squeaks ricocheted in the rafters. I ducked behind a toppled crate and forced breath through clenched teeth. Somewhere deep in the mill, metal scraped concrete, a dragging footstep. I dared a peek, nothing but rows of abandoned machinery. Then, at the far end, a vintage instant camera, an old Polaroid land model, sat upright on a table that hadn't been there moments ago. A single bulb dangled above it, lit and swaying though no wind reached inside. A fresh cartridge poked from the camera's slot, its white tab fluttering like a tongue. The bulb brightened. The camera clicked of its own accord. A photograph ejected, floated gently to the floor. Drawn by horror's gravity, I crawled closer. The photo finished developing in seconds, impossible for analog film. It showed the mill from a bird's eye view. In the center, a tiny figure, me, crouched behind a crate. And closing in, mere yards away, was the ghost, limbs distended like melted wax, grin splitting its throat from ear to ear. I spun, she was not there. Yet the bulb swung faster, and the machines I'd passed moments ago were subtly different, angled inward, forming a funnel toward the camera, toward me. Another click, another photo spat out. I snatched it midair. Now the ghost loomed directly over my crouched form, hand, no, something like a hand, poised to touch my shoulder. The air temperature plummeted. Each exhale crystallized between my lips. My heartbeat seemed to echo from every wall, a ritual drum summoning whatever had followed. On the table beside the camera lay a stack of Polaroids. I flipped through, my fingers trembling. Each was a frame in a ghastly stop-motion animation, the ghost and I inside my home, inside my office, my car, the bus stop, this mill, always closer. The last image was nothing but darkness, yet when I tilted it under the light I saw, embossed in the emulsion, the faint impression of my own face, eyes sewn shut with hair-thin wire. A creak overhead. I looked up and froze. She hung from a rafter by invisible threads, upside down like a spider, dress swaying. Her hair dripped toward the floor in lank ropes. Eyeless sockets tracked me. Slowly she descended, feet first, limbs unbending wrong way like marionette joints. With each inch, the camera clicked, immortalizing her approach, photographs fluttering like dead leaves around us. I backpedaled, stumbled against a loom, and my elbow landed on a rusted pair of shears. An idea, desperate and irrational, sparked, cut the film, sever the chain of images. I lunged for the instant camera. As I did, the ghost's neck elongated, head snaking down until her face hung inches from mine. Breath colder than liquid nitrogen poured from her gaping mouth. My fingers closed on the camera, the plastic was ice. She whispered, voice a glacier cracking, say, cheese. I squeezed the shutter, not at her but at the dusty floor. The flash detonated, white-hot. In that strobe I saw her flesh bubble and slew like paint in a furnace. She shrieked, not aloud but in my mind, a sonic splinter that threatened to split my skull. I staggered back, blinked away spots. Where she'd hovered was only drifting ash. Hope flared. I crammed the shears into the cartridge slot and wrenched. The camera's guts tore free, accordion bellows ripping. Chemicals spilled, slick and stinking of vinegar. The dangling bulb shattered, plunging the hall into gloom. Silence, true silence, swelled. I waited, pulse hammering. Minutes passed. Nothing moved. Somewhere dawn bled into the sky, gray light seeped through high windows. I exhaled, laughter bubbling, hysterical relief. I'd broken the lens through which she hunted. Without pictures, she had no path. A faint snap echoed behind me. I whirled. In the doorway stood a tall silhouette, shoulders jerking with labored breathing. A security guard? A hiker? I squinted as early sunlight edged his form in gold. He raised a hand holding a smartphone. I glimpsed the screen, the camera app was open, my image centered, his thumb hovering above the shutter. Hey, he called, uncertain. You okay? You look, Don't. I screamed, rushing forward. Too late. The phone flashed. For an instant, the world turned white. When vision returned, he frowned at the picture, then at me. Weird glitch, he muttered, showing the screen. I saw myself and, behind, the faint outline of a figure, blurry, ash-smudged, reforming. Mouth first, stretching in a grin that split the frame. My teeth chattered. Delete it. Now. He scoffed, tap trash. His face drained of color. The file won't go. He tried again. Each touch cloned the image instead, multiplying across his gallery. The temperature nosedived. Frost spidered over metal beams. From every corner, a whisper rose, a choir of shutters clicking. She was back. The guard's breath crystallized mid-sentence. He clutched his throat, eyes bulging, and toppled like a cut string. On his phone, the newest photo developed. Him on the floor, a white hand plunged through his chest, fingers erupting out his back clutching wet darkness. I stared, horror paralyzing my limbs. Then I saw the next thumbnail forming, me standing over the corpse, her behind me, hand reaching. Instinct broke the trance. I seized the phone, smashed it under my heel, glass shattered, circuits sparked. But as the screen died, I noted the building's broken window, outside, a pair of hikers on the trail, one raising a DSLR toward the decrepit mill. Even from here I heard the shutter. Click. The echo ricocheted beyond brick, beyond marrow. The air behind my neck chilled. A fingernail touched my skin. Next picture. I understood then, you cannot kill what is already negative space. Break one camera, she finds another. Destroy every lens and still reflective puddles and window panes remain. Light itself is her playground. Wherever someone frames the world, she will step into the shot. So I am writing this on paper, no images, no screens. If you found these pages, burn them unread or read and believe, but never, ever raise a lens. No selfies, no snapshots. Let memory blur. Because the moment you point glass at your own face, click. She smiles. And she is closer. Thank you very much. See you all in the next video.